let's be very clear. This is not a story about heroes. Think of this more like an autopsy. We're going to dissect what happens to people, what happens to us, when that thin layer we call society gets stripped away.
So how did it all begin? It was the second year of the war, but the end didn't start with a battle. It started with a cough, a sickness, a literal plague arrived. And that was the trigger for everything that followed.
Before we can even talk about society collapsing, we have to look at the body collapsing. We have to understand the clinical, brutal reality of the disease itself.
And this thing was fast, terrifyingly fast. It would start in your head, a fever just completely taking over. From there, it felt like it was burning its way right down through your chest. Soon, you were coughing up blood. And that was pretty much it. A few days later, you died in the dirt. No dignity, just the sickness.
Okay, so that's how the body fell apart. Now let's look at how society falls. Because when you absolutely cannot control a plague like that, all the things that hold us together, they just start to disintegrate. The sickness of the body becomes the sickness of the city.
And you know what the first real crack in the foundation was? The doctors, they died first. Just think about that. The experts, the people you're supposed to turn to for help, they were just as powerless as everyone else. And when people saw their own healers dying, a very specific kind of hope died right along with them.
So medicine fails. Where do people go next? Faith, right? The temples. But the disease didn't care about holy ground. The temples just filled with corpses. Religion offered them absolutely nothing. No sanctuary, no answers. It was like the gods weren't listening. Or maybe they just didn't care. And this is the moment everything changed. The dying saw there was no cure. The doctors were gone, the gods were silent. So what's left? The law, the rules we make for ourselves. But when you realize there's no hope, that there's no future, the laws just stop working. I mean, why would you follow the rules of a society that can't even keep you alive? And that's when the shift happened inside people's minds. All those big ideas, honor, reputation, what the gods think, they just became pointless. Who cares about honor when you could be dead tomorrow? The only thing that mattered anymore was right now. They just took what they wanted, because later no longer existed.
All of a sudden, it didn't matter who you were. The plague was the great equalizer. You could be a rich man, dying in your mansion surrounded by useless wealth. You could be a poor man, dying in the street. The sickness didn't care. It stripped everyone down to the same thing, just a body waiting to fail.
So, the old rules are gone. What comes next? A new set of rules, a new logic for survival. And let me tell you, it is a brutal calculus.
It really all boiled down to two simple choices. That was it. On one hand, you could help others. Take care of your sick friends, show some compassion. The consequence of that choice? You get sick and you die. On the other hand, you could save yourself, lock your door, ignore the screams from the street. The consequence of that choice? You live. It was that simple and that horrible.
So the most important quality you could have in this new world? Ruthlessness. The quality of having no pity, no compassion for anyone else. And you have to understand, it wasn't about being evil, it was just rational. It was the only way to survive. Compassion was a weakness that would get you killed. Ruthlessness was the one essential trait you needed to see the next sunrise.
Which brings us to the raw truth of it all. The first thing to disappear when everything falls apart. What does this situation tell us about ourselves?
And here it is, the final grim takeaway. It proved that when death is in the room, literally right there with you, human decency is the very first thing to disappear. All of our morality, our kindness, it's a luxury we can only afford when we feel safe. Take that safety away, and decency is the first thing we throw overboard.
So, this all leads to one final question. A question not about them, but for you. How many days would it take? How many days until the screams outside your door just become noise?